Welcome to Cosmic Kick with your host, Adrian Wentworth. Get ready to have your illusions broken and your consciousness expanded. Now, here's Adrian to give you that cosmic kick.
Greetings, all of you sincere seekers of light and truth. This is Adrian Wentworth, and today I'm going to share with you everything I know about death, dying, and the afterlife. Now, in our societies, death is sometimes considered a taboo to speak about, like, oh, we don't talk about death. So many belief systems around death are that, oh, when you talk about death, it just brings up all of this fear. And so there's a lot of denial about death. And here, let me tell you, it's something you've all done before. The life you have now is a mere sentence in your entire existence. And once you understand that the soul continues to experience lifetime after lifetime in the spiritual realms as well as incarnating in a physical body, it stops being so fearful. And yet, there is so much fear about letting go of our bodies. Now, many of us are going, there's no need to let go of our body anymore. We are working to shift our physical bodies in such a way that as we lighten our vibration, our physical bodies can shift as well. But we have many, many deep programs within ourselves around death and dying. And so we have strong belief systems that this body will get old. It will probably get very in a state of ill use, and then we will die. Now, first of all, what I have learned, because of being very aware throughout most of my life, sometimes you can call it psychic abilities, but really it's more than that. It's being aware of what goes on in all levels of our existence. And what I learned by watching this, what goes on for myself and for many others, is that once you die, life goes on. You continue. And there's so much, again, old programming about when you die, you're either going to go and be with God, or you're going to go someplace dark because you were not a good person, or you're going to go to an in-between state, which the Catholics call purgatory, and you're going to sit there and you're going to wait for someone to pray for you until you have enough prayers and you can move out of that state. I grew up Catholic, so these are the belief systems that were ingrained into me. And yet what I found is that, first of all, we can leave our bodies anytime we choose. It doesn't just have to be at the time of death. And what a wonderful way to prepare leaving the body when you're finally ready to let it go than to be practicing throughout your lifetime to come and go from your physical body. And the first experience I had with this was many, many years ago when I first started to awaken, and I started to search and seek out different spiritual practices, trying to learn more about my spiritual nature. And at that time, I read a book about TM meditation, and I went, I'm going to sit down and try this. And what I did, the kids were taking their naps, and I thought, I'm just going to sit down and just do what this book says. And what happened was I felt myself come out of my body and sit right next to my body. And, oh, my goodness, it wasn't frightening at all. It was an exhilarating feeling. It was a free feeling. Oh, it felt wonderful. And I sat there and pondered this and wondered, well, what the heck? How can I be doing this? If I'm outside my body, then what is my body anyway but an extension of myself? Just a physical manifestation of my energy, which I just went ahead and took out, not even knowing how I did it. And yet I found that it was freeing. It was wonderful. And it was a state that I wanted to achieve over and over again, which of course led me to seek out more about meditation. And what I learned on the spiritual path is that part of what we should be doing is be preparing to leave our bodies in a very spiritual way. And what that means is that we have to practice centering and staying centered at times of trauma, and have to practice also that art of witness. Now, many of you have heard over and over that sometimes during traumatic events, let's say when someone is close to death, they have an immediate rushing in of all of these memories of what they experienced during their lifetime. And what I say is more important is that you are constantly reviewing your life daily, looking at what you did, how you've behaved, how you're growing, what can you do to improve yourself at all levels. And this is what we should be doing with our life rather than just living it and at the time of death going, oh my gosh, wasn't there something I was supposed to do? And I left all of these things undone. And then my attachments, oh no, I can't leave this person. I'll be so sad. They'll be so sad. Which means also we need to work on our attachments. Attachment to being in a physical body, attachment to our loved ones who we have such strong desire to be with that we don't want to let go. And so by practicing the art of witnessing, which you learn to do when you establish a regular meditation practice, you start to see where you're holding on, who you're attached to, and also you learn how to get in touch with your soul and find out what the heck you're doing here anyway. In other words, the soul came in this lifetime with certain contracts, certain people that you decided you needed to meet and experience relationship with. Also, certain situations that you wanted to get involved with for either a fulfillment of desire or because it's just something you needed to learn and experience. And so all of our life should be done with these conscious intentions of staying centered, staying aware, and also staying in that state of witnessing and tuning into our souls so we know that we are on track and that we're getting the most out of this lifetime as we possibly can. Now, when you die, what happens depends on the state that you are in at the time of death. Again, if you are in a state of God consciousness, you more than likely will go straight to that level in spirit where you will experience God consciousness. But I have to tell you that the consciousness that you have at the time of death is going to determine what happens to you and where you go when you die. Most people who die are really amazed when they wake up in spirit and they find out that they feel exactly the same as they did before they died. They don't know any more. They don't know any less. It's just different. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just a different level of experience. Now, because I had many out-of-body experiences early on, I started to understand that, oh, gee, I'm out of my body, and I still am thinking the way I always think, a little bit more confused because things look differently when you're out of body, but yet the first truth that came to me was, I still exist. And this is the huge fear that most carry at the time of death and even before, which keeps one from dealing with death, is that I won't exist anymore. I'm here to tell you, you will exist. All you will have done is drop the physical body. And that can feel really freeing. Again, think about, oh gosh, no more colds, no more flus, no more body aches, no more dragging the body around. But also, no more food, no more sex, and all of these physical sensations that we're so attached to. You know that many seek physical birth just because of the attachments to the senses. So again, something that we should be working on as soon as we start to awaken to there's more of us than our physical body, is to look at our physical appetites and start to hone them. Start to get them under control so we're not drawn back just because we're craving a good meal. Now, I have had the great fortune to watch those that I have loved and have died, to have watched their dying process and their experience in the afterlife. And I want to share with you about that, because if you die in confusion, there is a possibility of getting stuck in the astral plane. And any of you who are spiritually aware, as anyone who is listening to this program today, you are awake and aware and are seeking more information about all of these subjects, you can do something to help those that you love cross safely into the light. And I'm going to share about that. Now, when I was quite young, my mother became very ill, and I watched her suffer, and she was a very, very spiritual being, a very devout Catholic, very strong in her faith, and all of us were suffering along with her. And I'll continue my story after these messages.
The new home for visionary positive change. Seventh Wave Network.
Are you feeling stuck? Krista Resources has the transformational tools to help you overcome all the obstacles that are blocking you from making positive changes in your relationships, career, health, and spiritual growth. Adrian Wentworth, founder of Krista Resources, brings you the missing keys through the Krista Healing Method and Krista Energy Attunements. These spiritual tools will clear and realign your energy system, remove all influences that are holding you powerless, build permanent protection against outside negative forces, activate your gifts and abilities, and get you in touch with your soul's purpose. Krista Resources, providing support for your personal growth and spiritual journey, helping you stay strong, balanced, and empowered through the challenges of these changing times. For more information on the products and services developed by Adrienne Wentworth, visit her website at www.KristaResources.com or call 719-487-8095. The website again is www.KristaResources.com, or you can call 719-487-8095.
Do you ever feel that you would love to have your very own all-knowing guide on tap 24/7? Well, you can. It's called your intuition. Learn how to trust your inner voice. Come and explore with Natasha Rosewood the power of your intuition and how you can use it now to bring more success and joy to your world. Join Natasha on her radio show, I Think I'm Psychic. And you can be too. Every Tuesday live at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the 7th Wave Network. Anything is possible.
Imagine there's no heaven.
Imagine there's no mortgage. It's easy if you try. That's not just a slogan, it's a choice you have right now. In these uncertain economic times, Sherry Shane of Shane Enterprises can empower you to eliminate or reduce your mortgage. Imagine how much money you'll save for your home, your family, for you. Shane Enterprises is a mortgage reduction and debt elimination company. Start imagining the possibilities today by calling Sherry Shane of Shane Enterprises at 719-210-3608. That's 719-210-3608. Imagine there is no mortgage. It's easy if you try.
Awakened Media for a transforming world. 7th Wave Network.
You're listening to Cosmic Kick with Adrienne Wentworth. Do you need help getting unstuck? Email Adrienne your questions at KristaResources@Comcast.net. That's KristaResources@Comcast.net. Now back to Cosmic Kick with Adrienne Wentworth.
Welcome back. This is Adrienne Wentworth, and I'm talking to you today about death, dying, and the afterlife. I'm telling you my experience about watching the death and suffering of my mother and all of her children and those who loved her. Now, when you have a great attachment for someone, you again are corded to that person, which means there is an energy line, a connection between you and that person. And you feel each other's pain, you feel each other's joy. And there is, at the time of trauma, there is a problem with those who are wanting so much for the person who is suffering to get better that they will take on the suffering. They will take on pain and sometimes make themselves sick and sometimes develop the same symptoms as the person who is very ill. And then here's the person who is very ill, and perhaps it is their time to let go and leave their body, and yet they continue to hold on because of the attachment of all of their children, their partners, those who love them, who don't want them to leave. And this was the case with my mother, where when she became very ill, she had the opportunity to leave quite early on during her illness, where she was in intensive care. And I went to see her one day, and she said, "Oh, last night my mother came to visit me." Now, here's a Catholic who is very strong in her faith, but we've never talked about what happens after you die. We never talked about seeing people who have already died. And all of a sudden, she's all excited and telling me her mother came to visit and sat on the edge of her bed. And she said it was so good to see her. And she told me what she was wearing. And then she said, my mother asked me, are you ready to go? And I told her no. I looked at her and said, what? Inside going, oh no, that means you're going to continue to suffer in this physical body. And she said no. And it was 2 more years before she decided to let go and leave her body, which means we often have choice as to when we choose to leave. We have many exit points, I call them, times that come up in our life when we have choice. Do we want to stay and continue to perhaps work out more karma and have more experience, or have we had enough? And we want to now go back to the spiritual planes and work from there and work on our own issues, because, again, you continue to work after you die. Now, what I noticed then with my mother after 2 years of living in this very, very painful existence and having surgery after surgery, and as I watched her physical body just break down, and she ended up with 6 inches of her small intestine, a colostomy. And here was this woman who was always very proud of her appearance. She had 9 children and still had a nice figure. That's what my father always said. She still has a nice figure. He was very proud of her. She was very prim and proper. And now all of a sudden we called her the bag lady, because she had bags that would just fill up with vile smelling substances. And what I learned is, that's not my mother. That body is not my mother. My mother is who dwells inside that body. And when she finally died, I saw many, many beautiful angels celebrating that her suffering was over. Her suffering had ended. And they took her to a place within the spiritual realm where she could continue to heal now from all of the physical, emotional, and mental pain that she went through out that long ordeal. Now, it took her a while before she started to wake up in spirit. And what I have seen with those who have been very ill before they die, and oftentimes have had to have many different drugs to control their pain. My mother was on a morphine drip, which is very common when people are in the dying process, just trying to make them comfortable. But what also happens then is it takes them a while to wake up in spirit. Now, my mother was ministered to in the spiritual realms. There was her mother waiting to help her cross. There was me and others who were spiritually aware and awake, making sure she made it through the lower astral planes and helped her be received into the spiritual realms. And I'm going to talk with you a little bit more about that. And then she had to heal in spirit, as I see many do. They're just healing in spirit. And then what happens is they go with their guides and they have a life review. In other words, it's as if now your karmic contracts are reviewed. The contract that you made before taking your last birth is looked at and said, now let's see, what did you plan to do and what did you get accomplished? What do you have left undone to do? And how are we going to set up your next set of experiences so you can continue to learn and grow? Which means there's more to do after you die. There is this belief system that at least as children, some of us have, because we're taught this in some of the religions, is that, well, when you die, you're going to go to heaven. And then I would think, and then what? Well, you're going to be with God. And as a child, I would think, okay, but then what am I going to do? Because I just don't want to hang out for the rest of my existence. That doesn't even sound attractive to me. And here I find out that, well, that's true. It's not what really exists. Yes, you may go if you have the consciousness, and you may go and experience God consciousness, but then you're going to be said, all right, because you have this awareness, let's figure out what you can do next to help others who are coming up behind you. In other words, that need to learn exactly what you've already learned and experienced. Oh, so that means just a short rest in spirit, and we're off and running again. Oftentimes, when you have awareness, you will dream about some of your loved ones. You'll dream about them dying before it ever happens. So you'll have an opportunity to go ahead and say your goodbyes, finish with them, and also perhaps plan to help them cross at the time of their death. And work on your own letting go of the attachment to having them there with you in their physical bodies. Now, when I became aware that the two spiritual masters that I had been studying with were getting ready to leave the planet, I went, I'm going to see them one last time. And I went to India and spent time with both of them. And one of them, I was so emotional because that was the bhakti, the one that was all about love. And I sat there and I started to cry, and I just said, you're going to die. Like that was something horrible. And he looked at me and he said, oh, Kasturi Mother. That was my spiritual name. Kasturi Mother. We have been together for mantra. We have had a lifetime together for tantra. We have had a lifetime together to learn yantra. And now I am going to go home, and God is just going to throw me back down here again. In other words, he was pleading with me, please just let me go home and rest, because it'll just be a short time, and I'll be back again at some level experiencing what I need to experience in helping all of those who I care about to reach the level that I have already reached. And then you learn, when you have a loved one who has already died, and you see them showing up in your dreams, and you see them sometimes even having, it seems as if it's a visitation, as what happened with my mother when she was so sick and her mother came. Oh, there's so much to share with you. I'll be back after these messages.
Taking you to the threshold of a dream and beyond. Seventh Wave Network.
Are you feeling stuck? Krista Resources has the transformational tools to help you overcome all the obstacles that are blocking you from making positive changes in your relationships, career, health, and spiritual growth. Adrienne Wentworth, founder of Krista Resources, brings you the missing keys through the Krista Healing Method and Krista Energy Attunements. These spiritual tools will clear and realign your energy system, remove all influences that are holding you powerless, build permanent protection against outside negative forces, activate your gifts and abilities, and get you in touch with your soul's purpose. Krista Resources, providing support for your personal growth and spiritual journey, helping you stay strong, balanced, and empowered through the challenges of these changing times. For more information on the products and services developed by Adrienne Wentworth, visit her website at www.KristaResources.com or call 719-487-8095. The website again is www.KristaResources.com, or you can call 719-487-8095. The power of positive change lies within your own imagination. Every weekend on the Seventh Wave Network, there's a show that is for anyone who believes in the power of positive change. This show will present concepts, practical exercises, and ideas to affect your ability to more effectively use your creativity, inspiration, and imagination. The program is the Simone Zone 1. Your host is John C. Mejia. Listen for the Simone Zone 1 every Saturday at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on the Seventh Wave Network.
Imagine there's no heaven.
Imagine there's no mortgage. It's easy if you try. That's not just a slogan, it's a choice you have right now. In these uncertain economic times, Sherry Shane of Shane Enterprises can empower you to eliminate or reduce your mortgage. Imagine how much money you'll save for your home, your family, for you. Shane Enterprises is a mortgage reduction and debt elimination company. Start imagining the possibilities today by calling Sherry Shane of Shane Enterprises at 719-210-3608. That's 719-210-3608. Imagine there is no mortgage. It's easy if you try.
Listening on a higher dimension. Seventh Wave Network.
You're listening to Cosmic Kick with Adrienne Wentworth. Do you need help getting unstuck? Email Adrienne your questions at KristaResources@Comcast.net. That's KristaResources@Comcast.net. Now back to Cosmic Kick with Adrienne Wentworth.
Welcome back. I'm speaking to you about the experiences of the afterlife and telling you what I've seen when my own mother died. And after the review and after you understand what else it is you need to learn and experience, and you start to set up your next lifetime, if that's still something that you need to do, you also start to work in spirit, doing what you can according to your abilities. Now, my mother had 9 children. Obviously, she loved children. And what I would see sometimes when I would see her at night, because I had the ability to travel through the different spiritual dimensions, and I could see what was going on, and I could go and visit people that had died, and I realized that, you know what? I kind of see my mom more now than I did when she was alive. And I would see her taking care of whole nurseries full of babies, young souls. And then because I now was also having more children and realized that they needed to be watched at night when they left their bodies, but because I was very busy at night doing my spiritual work, seeing the clients that I was going to be working with, as well as working out my own karmas with those who had already crossed, I would ask my mother, I would take my baby or my young child in their spirit body, and I would take them to her and say, can you just watch them for a little while? Because I've got to go. I've got things to do. You know, that night work that so many of us are so aware of. And she would say, of course, and just add it to her charges. And this was just so fascinating fascinating for me to see that you don't have to really miss anyone because they're right there. They're just existing in a different level of awareness, but they're right there. And this is why after a period of time, and they learn how to be in spirit, because again, when you first leave your body, you have to remember. Now, some of you have those memories and go, oh yeah, I know what to do. I know what to do. Oh yeah, I know how to move around in spirit. I've got it. I know how to go back and forth between the dimensions. And others are like, I'm clueless. What the heck do I do? How do I exist? And there are schools on the inner plane that each of us go to learn whatever level of experience we still need. I go to the inner schools to learn, as well as I'm a teacher to teach it at the inner schools. Again, nights are very, very busy. When you start to dream about a loved one who has died, you will start to see them shift back into an age when they felt the most youthful, the most beautiful within their physical body. They always become younger looking because they're still also holding the impressions from the last body form that they took on. In other words, after a period of time, like now, my mother's been dead for many, many years, she probably no longer looks like my mother, but perhaps has taken on a form now that is more suited to who she is becoming. It's just the attachment we have to the way we perceived them. Remember, a soul experiences many, many lifetimes over and over. How could it not be that there'd be only one short time to learn? And many of us know much about our past incarnations, as well as we see the experiences of many others who come and go. Now, I have to share with you the experience that my father had when he died. My mother went first, and my father didn't last too much longer, just a couple of years after that. And one summer, I kept having this experience of, in the early morning, a robin kept bumping into my window. And this happened day after day. And finally, I said, what? What is it you're trying to tell me? Being aware that oftentimes different nature aspects, birds and, like I said, wind, and can give you messages. And I heard, your father is dying. And I was like, what? Even though I've had some dreams, again, you start to see things in advance. I thought, oh my gosh, he's dying right now. I've got to call him up. I've got to go see him. And right that next day, I ran right over to visit him, and he seemed fine. But I thought, I have healing to do with my father, and I'm going to start to come visit him more often, even though he really wasn't all that comfortable with having me around. My vibration and his vibration just did not mesh, and he'd have to leave the room several times during one visit just to kind of get away from me, and then he'd come back again, and then he'd kind of leave again and come back again. And yet, I really wanted to be there for him and help him through this experience as well. For he had different kinds of problems. He was a chronic alcoholic and had lived his life with a lot of denial. In other words, many things that he had done, he held them in and did not speak with them, did not talk about them, and he was just all bottled up inside. And this happens when your vibration starts to shift. Those around you who are holding a lot, you become like this, I always say, like a hot foot to them. They're like, oh, you're so uncomfortable to be around, unless they're seeking that shifting, unless they're seeking that release. Well, this was in the summer, and in the fall, he became ill as well. And by winter, early winter, he also died. Only this time, he was very, very afraid of death, being he wouldn't speak about it. He wouldn't talk about his feelings at all. He would stick his arm out and say, I keep my emotions to myself. And this was also saying, so don't try to approach me. A very strong man as well. And so, but I connected with his high self, that part of him that is trying to guide him and help him during this very trying time of illness and death. I connected with his high self and kept surrounding him with protective light. And you can do this for anyone. You can surround them with light. It is against ethics to go ahead and shift their energy in any way without their conscious permission. They have to say, yes, go ahead and work on me, help me heal, help me release. But you can surround them with protective light and connect to their high self, that God self, and help them feel safe, so they feel safe to die, because many, again, are afraid of the experience, and this was my father's experience. So I saw when he died, at first he was like, oh my gosh, and right away I brought in the help, to just the light and the help, to help him through those lower astral planes and hand him over to the guides that were waiting to receive him. And also, it was his mother who was there for him. I tell people all of the time that you should decide who you want to meet you at the time of death. You should decide. Do you want it to be your mother, your father, or a teacher that you had that has already left? Just know that it's very comforting to see someone you know at first, but it doesn't mean you're going to stay with them. It's sometimes just a welcoming, a celebration that, oh, you're home, and we've missed you, and we love you. And then you go on to your next step, which it would be the review. Now, my dad didn't die in the state that my mom did. His illness was not as long, and he wasn't on all of the drugs and things that she was. And so he was much more aware when he died, and he was much more afraid. And so when his guides took him for his review, he didn't know what to make of that. And I was watching all of this, and it was very interesting because he didn't want to look at his life review. They were very loving, very patient. They kept showing him the alcohol, saying, we need to look at this. We need to address this. They were showing him other things that he had done in his life, saying, we need to look at this. We need to address this. And we have all the time there is to sit here and wait for your readiness. And to me, this is what the Catholics call purgatory. Having to sit there until you're ready to look and decide that you'll figure out what to do next. And I'll be back after these messages.
Your online community for positive change. Seventh Wave Network.
Are you feeling stuck? Krista Resources has the transformational tools to help you overcome all the obstacles that are blocking you from making positive changes in your relationships, career, health, and spiritual growth. Adrian Wentworth, founder of Krista Resources, brings you the missing keys through the Krista Healing Method and Krista Energy Attunements. These spiritual tools will clear and realign your energy system, remove all influences that are holding you powerless, build permanent protection against outside negative forces, activate your gifts and abilities, and get you in touch with your soul's purpose. Krista Resources, providing support for your personal growth and spiritual journey, helping you stay strong, balanced, and empowered through the challenges of these changing times. For more information on the products and services developed by Adrian Wentworth, visit her website at www.KristaResources.com or call 719-487-8095. The website again is www.KristaResources.com, or you can call 719-487-8095.
Are you ready to face the rapidly changing times and a whole new way of being? Humanity and all Earth are part of this tremendous shift, bringing each and every one of us more in alignment with who we really are. The show that will help you realize this shift is called Visioning the Dream Awake, hosted by Donna Merkich. Listen for this unique program that will help you step into your best possible self and reality. Visioning the Dream Awake airs live on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Time on the Seventh Wave Network.
Imagine there's no heaven.
Imagine there's no mortgage. It's easy if you try. That's not just a slogan, it's a choice you have right now. In these uncertain economic times, Sherry Shane of Shane Enterprises can empower you to eliminate or reduce your mortgage. Imagine how much money you'll save for your home, your family, for you. Shane Enterprises is a mortgage reduction and debt elimination company. Start imagining the possibilities today by calling Sherry Shane of Shane Enterprises at 719-210-3608. That's 719-210-3608. Imagine there is no mortgage. It's easy if you try.
Be extraordinary. Seventh Wave Network.
You're listening to Cosmic Kick with Adrian Wentworth. Do you need help getting unstuck? Email Adrian your questions at KristaResources@Comcast.net. That's KristaResources@Comcast.net. Now back to Cosmic Kick with Adrian Wentworth.
Welcome back. This is Adrian Wentworth, and I'm speaking to you about the experiences that my father had when he died. And as I said, he stayed in his review for a long time before he was willing to look at his life and to work with his guides to see what do I need to do to try to heal now with many of the people that I have unfinished business with. And then he started to get busy, and the first one he wanted to heal with was my mother. You know, she didn't want to see him. We are not all in the same place when we die. And did you notice it wasn't her that was waiting to greet him? She loved him, but she also had been putting up with his alcoholism for years and years and years, and now is like, you know what, I'm done with you. I did my life with you. I did everything I could. I took care of our children, and I'm done. And he wanted to heal with her. She wouldn't see him. So he started to keep asking me for help. This I thought was just so fascinating. I would see him in my dreams, and he would say, oh, come on, please go ask your mother if she'll see me. And I would go, and I would find my mother, and she would be with a group of beings that she knew, like her friends and her spirit guides. And I'd say, come on, Mom, just see him. She'd say, no, I don't have to, and I don't want to. Oh, I thought, this is crazy. I have to be the intermediary between the two of them. But I kept at it, and sooner or later, it was pretty much later, she finally decided to see him and start to heal with him in spirit. Does that mean that they're going to be happy ever after? No, of course not. He was her husband this particular lifetime. She has had many husbands, he has had many wives, but they had unfinished business. And then my father got busy and started to try to contact and heal with all of us, all of his children. And this was hard for him because there was a lot that needed to be healed from what went on in our life together. But I saw him trying. I would see him on the inner planes, and this is what I want to help you understand, that if you don't get the opportunity to finish what you need to finish with someone before they die, you still have the opportunity to do this in spirit. And my father grew hair again. This is always a good sign that, again, they are healing. He's got hair. This is great. And he got busy, planning his next life and doing whatever he could to now heal with all of those that he had left undone. Now, oftentimes, because of the work that I do, I'm helping people all of the time deal with the death of their loved ones. And oftentimes, right away when their loved one dies, they say, would you please check and see that they're okay? And of course, I'll do that. But understand, you all have the power to do this yourself. And you get this empowerment by practicing your meditation, by moving your consciousness further and further through the spiritual dimensions until you become a comfortable traveler through the dimensions, where it doesn't matter anymore whether you have a body or not, because you're free to go wherever you choose, whenever you desire. And this practicing prepares you. You need to also practice connecting to high selves, to the high self of others. And we learn to do this as you're learning to do healing and other spiritual practices, and to learn to just surround them with protective energy. You can do this by doing the Panduranga mantra that I gave you earlier on, that Om Namo Bhagavate Pandurangaya, which is on my CD, Water in the Eyes of Time. You can also, if you have been attuned to the Krista energy, it's wonderful to surround them over and over again with the Krista energy, which will protect them and keep them safe as they leave their body, just as it keeps you safe when you leave your body at night or whenever you decide to travel. And so you need to practice these things, and then you make contracts with those that you want to help. Perhaps it's an ailing parent or a friend, or even, sometimes it's our own children. You prepare yourself, to let go, and you help them let go as well. Because oftentimes, people do not cross right away when they die because they're so concerned about the ones that they've left behind. They are suffering so much. They hang around trying to comfort them. And sometimes they get lost then, and they have a hard time crossing. As I've said in previous shows, when someone commits suicide, they die with so much confusion and pain. They often land in the astral planes close to the earth, and now they're just clamoring for help, hanging around those that love them, trying to get them to see that they still exist, and their pain still exists. It didn't go anywhere, and now they need help to cross. And so it's really important to not hold on to our loved ones and really work on detaching and realizing, just as I did with the death of my parents, that they still exist. I can communicate with them. I can go see them anytime I want. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful way to realize that, guess what? We still exist without our bodies. When someone first dies, they oftentimes are not yet able to communicate with you. And this is the other thing that I hear is people ask me, would you find out if my mom is okay, if my dad is okay? Do they want to tell me something? And not right away they don't. They're busy trying to figure out that they're dead and how to function without their bodies. It's a whole nother world. And the last thing on their minds once they've crossed is worrying about, you. They'll get back to helping you after they've had some time, some processing time to learn how to function in spirit. And this is really important to understand, give them some time. And there is no set amount of time. Some go faster than others. Now, this is a time when many are choosing to leave our planet because of what is coming. There is so much coming right now, and there's going to be so much upheaval that many are choosing to leave now. And there isn't going to be anyone who is not experiencing death of loved ones, and it's probably more than one. And so it's important that you prepare yourself and that you're in a position to help those that need to go now, because they are not going to be able to stay here comfortably as the vibrations on the planet shift. And there are many, many beautiful beings in spirit who are working now to help many cross through the earth changes. And understand that many have decided that this is the way they're going to go. And they're getting ill and they're dying very quickly or having accidents or just leaving. And this is what I recommend. Just leave through your crown chakra, the best way to go, right to the spiritual realms. Leaving through the crown chakra, which means practicing every day for your death by staying centered, by connecting, by practicing the art of witnessing, and by letting go of all of your attachments and desires. There's a mantra that can help you stay balanced. It's the Rama mantra. Om Shri Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama. Om Shri Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama. Say this mantra to help you stay balanced. Say it to help others stay balanced around you. Ram was a mantra that Gandhi used. And it's said that at the time of his death, when he was shot, all that came out of him was Ram. In other words, he was so prepared for his death, allowing that sacred sound, that sound of God, to take him home. Om Shri Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama. This mantra is also on my CD of sacred mantras, empowered mantras, and sacred music. Water in the Eyes of Time. And, the time goes by so quickly, and there's so much to tell you. You're just going to have to tune in next week when I talk with you about money, abundance, and prosperity. Until then, namaste.
Thanks again for listening to Cosmic Kick with your host, Adrian Wentworth. Make sure you join us live every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time and 10 a.m. Pacific Time here on the Seventh Wave Network.